Hello, magical creatures. How are you? I hope you're doing so well. I'm so excited that today on the Pleasure and Prosperity Show with the Dancing Healer, that's me, Michelle Zackerson, sexual empowerment coach for spiritual entrepreneurs. We are hosting, hello, Roxy. We are hosting Tatiana Jensen, and Jensen, she'll correct me when she's on. And we're going to be doing, hello baby, so good to see you. We're going to be talking about and doing EFT tapping. So that's emotional freedom technique tapping. She is coming on the line. She's coming on. Hello. You
Hi,
made it
beautiful.
perfect. Hello, beautiful. Oh my God, it's so good to see your face on the screen. It's been literally a year since we started connecting, and we actually I was gonna host some people over at my house tomorrow, and then it's going back into the red zone, so I'm having 5 max people over, and then we're not going out to karaoke at the bar we perform at. So kind of come full circle from a year ago and the COVID regulations and lockdown, and Tatiana beautifully created a free community for people, and I think it ran 8 sessions every 2 weeks, I think, right? Running EFT tapping sessions, and that's how I think I got connected with you. I can't remember how I found out about it. Honestly, I don't know if it was a Shay Sundara's community, maybe on Facebook.
I think I think that rings a bell. I feel like it was through some sort of Facebook world. But yeah.
Yes. Oh, welcome everyone to the show. I'll just re-say my welcome. My name is Michelle Zackerson. I'm here interviewing Tatiana. And can you share your last name or perfect?
I heard that. I was like, don't worry, it's Jessen.
Jensen with a N?
Jessen, Jessen.
Jessen. Okay. Perfect. So we've known each other for about a year. And as you all know, I'm obsessed with embodied practices. And so a lot of the times this is sexual practices. So breast massage, yoni puja, that's pussy worship. Yoni is pussy in Sanskrit. Meditation, dance, yoga, anything that we can get from our heads to drop down to our heart and our pussy. And so embodied practices are so powerful. Coaching and counseling and talk therapy is so special for so many reasons. And to have only a top-down approach, I feel, in my experience, it hasn't gotten me as deeply healed or transformed as I wanted to. So some people know back problems actually are the reason that a year ago I started specializing in sexual empowerment coaching. So this is probably a new story for you, Tatiana, but basically I am an ex-lawyer, so I have 3 university degrees, 2 law degrees, and I just continued that kind of like hustle mentality of sit and work. And that did not agree with my body. And so a year ago, a year into coaching, it's actually my 2-year entrepreneur anniversary yesterday. It was the last year. So I decided in January 2019 to become a coach, but March 17th is when I walked out of the last organization I worked for and worked for myself. But as we all know, working just with your head and in that hustle mentality, that work, that grind, all that kind of stuff, a lot of entrepreneurs come to the point where they burn out, their back hurts, they're having physical symptoms. And so that's why I'm super excited to start doing not just the talking interviews, but also having more embodied practices on the lives with the Pleasure and Prosperity Show. So Tatiana is so graciously going to, we're going to talk about tapping, and then she's going to run us through like a deep, like 20-ish minute tapping session. And so tapping, I will let her introduce herself, but basically tapping, emotional freedom technique, EFT tapping, can be used for so many things, from increasing energy to decreasing anxiety, anger, fear, performance anxiety. I tapped on the other day as I was about to perform burlesque and drag. The only tapping book that I have in hardcover is Tapping into Wealth by Margaret Lynch, all about tapping for wealth. And a lot of it really boils down to like removing blocks to what you want. So it's like bringing in what you want as well as acknowledging, but then limiting and kind of removing what we don't want. I just wrote a post on tapping. I had like 7 reasons why I love tapping. It's quick, it's efficient, it's effective, it's so versatile. Like I could go off about it. We'll talk more. But to start, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about what brought you to tapping?
Yeah, of course. Well, like Michelle said, my name is Tatiana and I run a brand called Awaken Align. So everything I do is really about not only helping people like really open up to their divinity, their divine selves, but doing that through the inner work, through mastery of the inner realms. And so I love using different practices to do that. I found really quickly on my journey, like you said, like instead of thinking about things and talking about things, like I love body work. That was something that I learned so early on my journey. And when it came to me tapping, it was so serendipitous. It was so divine. I had a friend that was living in Austin when I was living in Austin, and she had just finished a tapping teacher's training. And when she finished, she was so excited about it. She was telling me all about it. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't understand it whatsoever. I was like, you tap on your body and talk, and it like has these profound effects that you're talking about. But I'm always open, right? I'm always open to trying things. So she told me what to do. I went home, and that night I just started tapping. And within like 5 minutes, I was bawling, crying on my bathroom floor. And at the time, I didn't really cry that much. So I was just like, okay, there we go. And I think it left such a powerful first impression. I'd never experienced something like that, especially on my own, just something so quick and so visceral. And so it just slowly but surely evolved into my day-to-day practice. And it really has like, I would never be here if it wasn't for tapping. Like whenever something comes up for me, whenever something is alive for me, tapping is one of the first things that I go to. Of course, I go to different things, but it's something that, yeah, has changed my life ever since. So I'm really grateful for that friend who introduced me to it.
Totally. And you know, I'd heard of tapping for at least the last year or two. It's been around since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Craig, Gary or Gary Craig
Gary
created
Craig.
Gary Craig, yeah. So Gary
Yeah.
Craig created it, and the history that I understand from Brad Yates, who I'm having on my show next week, big YouTube star, 32 million tapping videos or streams for his tapping videos. He has 1,000 tapping videos on everything under the sun that you can imagine.
Oh,
And
awesome.
he describes that Gary Craig was working with this woman who had a fear of water, like a very big phobia of water, and
Mm-hmm.
that he was also studying Chinese medicine. So when we get into the tapping, you'll see that we're going to be tapping on acupressure points. And you correct me because you're the expert, but this is just what I know
Mm-hmm.
as I start to learn and teach, right?
You're
Um,
a master too. You know all the things.
oh,
Yes,
thank
this
you.
is all.
Thank you. It's all above board right now. I just need to make sure I'm getting people's names right. And he was noticing that under the eye was a tapping point for the stomach, and the woman was feeling physical symptoms of stomach pain when her phobia of fear came up. And so he
Mm-hmm.
just, like so many scientists, kind of just experimented. And then he started tapping on these points with her, and then she apparently eventually like ran to the water, and he was like, no, like I'm not sure if we're done the therapy or whatever. And she went to the water and she was no longer afraid. And so like there's story after story of like how many people get over phobias, like
Mm-hmm.
public speaking, confidence. The ones that have really resonated a lot with me are how much I can get out of anger and to calm, or anxiety into calm. Those
Mm-hmm.
really have helped me. And then I'm just actually gonna read one about body love. I'm really struggling with body love and body confidence right now.
Yeah.
And so Jessica Ortner has one for it's weight loss. I try not to promote weight loss, but basically it's about body love. And
Mm-hmm.
I have chronic back pain I'm working out of,
Mm-hmm.
and you can tap for chronic pain and persistent pain. I also don't want to label it so harshly as well, because I believe I can get out of it. And
Totally.
so instead of just tapping on uh, specific points, that I think, what was it, Dr. John Callahan, the first, I'm getting confused. I think maybe, was I talking about John Callahan? Anyways, whatever. There was two men that kind of started it, and instead of just tapping on specific points for specific people, it developed into a ritual of tapping on um, the same kind of points just to cover all your bases. So
Mm-hmm.
Tatiana has a really special method. I don't know if she's going to do it today, but you're the only person I've worked with that really. Oh, I'm trying to
Taps on the
the
hands.
comment taps on the fingers. Yeah, so I find that really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, and we'll teach you guys if you haven't done tapping. And Tatiana has her own special breed and brand that she's been doing for years that really resonate with her. She was telling me in a voice clip the other day. And yeah, it's just such an interesting thing for me. And I'm in the sex, love, and relationship coaching program with Layla Martin. It's all about removing trauma, embodied practices, from self pleasure to rubbing your skin, to shaking, to dancing, to convulsing, to screaming, to hissing, to getting that shit out of our body, right?
Yeah.
But we haven't been able to do that, especially as women, because we might be seen as demonic or crazy or possessed. And so, literally, tapping on these points, it removes energy blocks from the flow of your body, right? And so, when you can tap, and it's so incredible that you can literally, and you're encouraged to rate on a scale of 1 to 10 what's going on before for you. Like, so how intense is your anger? How intense is your anxiety? Or how motivated do you feel? So the numbers are either going to be low if you want it high, and high if you want it low, depending on if you're going to somewhere positive or if you're trying to reduce some uncomfortable feelings. Exactly. And having that quantification, I love that, because self-growth, we so rarely can quantify. I'm actually looking for my journal because I actually have a happiness kind of grid and scale. It's the happiness planner in my journal. I love it because you actually get to rate yourself on like stress, happiness, calmness, productivity, excitement, and so rarely we can do that. So the Tapping Solution app by Nick Ortner, who wrote the Tapping Solution, he was a Tony Robbins guy. And I went to a Tony Robbins event, and he gave us this free membership for the pro version or whatever for 6 months. And that's really how I got into it. I had done tapping on and off. You led such a beautiful, series of sessions, and I went to multiple last year, but I still wasn't like, fuck yes, like tapping or die, and now I can't get enough. Like, I've watched so much Tap with Brad Yates videos, and it's just so excited to have back-to-back shows on the Pleasure and Prosperity show with you and Brad. Just incredible. Can you explain? I've explained from some of the bases that I know, but I would love to hear from you, the spiritual and scientific, because there's both, right? Reason and just like, how does tapping work, both spiritually and scientifically?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question because so much of what I do is about like trying to bridge those worlds. I think that it's so powerful when we can bridge like the spiritual and the scientific, and the spiritual and practical and things like that. So I love that question. Spiritually speaking, I mean, it's almost hard to like put words on it, but for me personally, I feel like when I start tapping, I really just feel this sense of like opening my channel, opening portals, opening parts of my body. It's like this very opening experience, and a lot of how I learned how to channel was actually through tapping. I felt so much coming through as I was opening and clearing so much. And so I feel like it's really person to person in many ways, but I feel like when you really start tuning into your body in a way that you don't usually do on a day-to-day basis, it really starts to open a lot. And if you're open and willing to experience those things, I feel like a lot comes through. But with that being said, this is about not just like working through the physical body, but in practices and in belief systems like Kundalini, it's believed that we have so many other bodies, right? Like auric bodies, subtle bodies, energetic bodies. And so doing something like tapping allows us to clear these blockages, not just like in the body, but in so many other of these more like energetic bodies, so to speak. So it allows us to do really deep work, going into areas and places that, we can't really see with our eyes. So I feel like, yeah, it's very person to person, but for me, it's a very spiritual practice. But scientifically, what it allows us to do, so basically whenever we start tapping on, let's say, a blockage, so what this does, it allows us to fire up a part of our brain you know, these synapses that are connected in an emotional response. So, you know, this blockage that we have synapses in our brain that are glued together because of whatever it is that we went through. And so what tapping allows us to do, it allows us to really fire up those parts of our brain so those synapses can actually break apart and dissolve. So what it's doing is really clearing out the old and making way for the new. So clearing out these old synapses and allowing them to create new connections and new pathways. So it's so powerful because when we're tapping, you can really feel it as you're tapping, but the integration afterwards, you really realize like, whoa, I'm not thinking the same or viewing this the same or treating this the same. And it's really that scientific piece that comes into play, like pretty much rewiring your brain. So it's really powerful stuff. And this is something that has been studied all over the world. There's scientific journals, psychology journals, like so many different journals that cover exactly this. So it's not just me saying it. It's kind of all over, which is really powerful.
Oh my God. It's just so fascinating. Everywhere I seem to look, because I love my spiritual books. Someone was calling me. It's
I was
the
like,
credit card company trying to offer me insurance benefit, and I called them back yesterday. They asked for my name 3 times, and I'm like, I'm not interested. Like, let me alone. Now they're calling me today. I'm just like, can you stop? I don't have a car. I don't need car insurance. Everywhere I seem to look, Gabby Bernstein is one of my favorite spiritual authors, but so many other authors talk about tapping. She has Judgment Detox. I can definitely get into a space where I'm falling out of love and into judgment to feel safe and separated from my partners and loved ones. I'm love and light, and then the people I'm closest with, I'm just can be so harsh because I'm so terrified of that rawness and all that kind of stuff. And what I'm trying to say is that Gabby Bernstein and so many others that believe in tapping, Ayanla Vezant, they actually have tapping in their books. And I love how the metaphysical and the scientific are so getting closer and closer, right? Like science is proving what Tantra has said for years, or which, you know, indigenous communities have said for years, and tapping is no exception. It's just so wild. Like for the people that need the science, it's there, but if you just try tapping, if it works for you, like all I need to know is that I feel better after I tap. That's all I need to know. You know what I mean? And that's not necessarily what I thought before, especially as an entrepreneur. I outsourced my body trust and my self trust to like this guru and that guru, both in spiritual and also entrepreneurship, business kind of marketing stuff, you know, but our bodies have so much wisdom. And if our bodies are saying, hey, I feel better after doing this practice and I feel more calm, that's our central nervous system telling us like, this is good for us. And it's like unwiring. So like we're going to be tapping on sexual empowerment, which is so exciting. And I was like, how can we do that? Because I've never really done that, even though I know there are some videos on YouTube, and I'm recording my first YouTube channel video today. So I'm really excited about it.
That's
and I'll be talking more about tapping. But yeah, I was asking Tatiana when we're messaging back and forth, and she said, you know, it's a lot about removing things. And that's what I work with in my group coaching, Sex Goddess School, and my one-on-one is removing shame, removing guilt, removing fear, removing, you know, anger, frustration, irritation, all that kind of stuff. Those are beautiful emotions and they're totally there for a reason, but they can get in the way of us experiencing our highest pleasure and our highest sexual, you know, vulnerability with ourselves or our partner. Because when we're in fear, judgment, shame, anger, we're not our highest selves. And so I always say that I want to help people get into their sexy, radiant goddess energy. And so to me, that's like this, like,
I love that.
Yes, I love that phrase.
So important, so needed, like, and it's infinite, right? Like you can't cap out at that. It's something that you can just continue to amplify more and more at every stage of the journey. So that's so beautiful.
Totally. And like, I feel like it's like confidence plus, because we learn in school like self-esteem, but not like inherent self-worth. Like no matter your grades, no matter what you look like, no matter your like weight, skin color, ability, you are inherently a goddess or goddess or magical creature, and you are so worthy of love, so worthy of, you know, anything, honor, truth, like just the highest amount of wealth, you know, pleasure. And so this tapping, it helps bring you back, I find, to that grounded inner knowing, that grounded goddess energy of like, I'm worthy of making a living coaching. I'm worthy of love in my relationships. I'm worthy of both a hot partner and a partner I get along with, because I used to think that it had to be either one, right? And it's
Exactly.
just so so many tools are so amazing for so many things. So if yoga resonates with you, all the more power to you. Meditation, whatever. I love tapping. I think it's so quick and so easy. And as a type A ex-lawyer, I love practices that are 10 minutes or less. My yoga practice, honestly, is by Kathleen Hawk. She's on YouTube and it's a friend of mine, and she has a ton of followers. But it's only 10 minutes. And it doesn't take long, in my experience, to tap and
Yeah,
to see that shift for me.
exactly.
And I'm wondering if you have like a point or different points in your journey when you tap in one session. For me,
Mhm.
there's a point where I kind of like I'm noticing more now that I like relax. The
Mm,
first kind of few rounds are like, for me, often I read scripts or watch videos, or like the
mm,
acknowledging of what is actually, I'll just period, right? So
yeah.
like, even though, and I was tapping in my Facebook group the other day, and I ended up crying, and I didn't mean to, but that was what was true for me. I said, even though, you know I'm a body love sexual empowerment coach, and I struggle with my weight, I can
Mm,
fully love and accept myself. You know what I mean? And there's
yeah.
no bypassing in tapping, in my experience. There's no like, it's just love and light. You are experiencing, or you are acknowledging and honoring your fears. And
Yeah.
I love that like, we don't have to just jump right to the, you know, there might be a pressure in spirituality. I'm looking at Asking It Is Given by Abraham Hicks, like, stay in a high vibe, be good vibrations, or you're not going to attract anything that's good for you or that you
Mm,
want, right? Do
exactly.
you also have a point where you're just like, you feel like you're like, oh, there's a click there? I only noticed this recently, actually.
Yeah, I think that after tapping for like 5 or 6 years, it's it's so different every time, but I noticed that like when something comes up for me, when something is alive for me, it's so important for me to use something like tapping as an outlet to getting that out. And so it really is sort of like I visualize like this river, and it's like everything is streaming out. So whenever I'm tapping, I am going into those places, those shadows, that anger, that fear, that nervousness, whatever it is, and really like just getting it all out. And it's amazing. Sometimes this lasts for like 5 minutes, and there are times where I literally will be tapping for an hour and a half because it's just so intense and so much. And I want to go to those places. I don't want those places to be alive in me anymore. And so, or not alive, but I want them to, be alchemized into something of a higher vibration, of a higher nature. And so, a lot of my tapping sessions start with just clearing and clearing and clearing. But then there's that point that you're talking about where it's like, so much of this is out of my system. Maybe not all of it, but in some cases, all of it is out of my system. And then I can start transitioning into really calling in whatever it is that I want to call in. So, of course, I say things like, I love and accept myself throughout my practice. I'm not just like clearing, 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 but there comes that point where suddenly it's a lot more positive affirmations, a lot more calling in. But it's just so powerful, exactly what you said, to use this as a space to fully allow yourself to go there. And it's incredible how it can be as surface level. This is not surface level, but like a small insecurity, to as deep as like past life trauma. I've done some crazy stuff about like past life trauma. And so it's a space, it's a safe space for you to go through all those things, and then hit that turning point where you're like, whoa, I'm ready to turn the page and start creating something new. It's like what I talked about with rewiring your brain. It's like, okay, what do I want to call in to take this place, to take up this space that I've now cleared? And it's so beautiful. And I want to say, it's similar to what you said. I love this because it worked for me, and I think it's so important to teach things that you're embodying and that has worked for you. But if someone has something, like if this doesn't really align with them, but they have this other thing that really works for them, then amazing, all power to you. As long as we can have these resources that resonate with us, no matter what that looks like, I think that that's the most important thing. So
I love it. All right, let's get a time check. Okay, I'll ask you one more question, and then
Okay.
everyone, we're so lucky that Tatiana's going to lead a tapping session for us for
Oh.
increasing our sexual empowerment and pleasure. So excited. Um,
Mm.
how can tapping help with sexual empowerment and increasing our pleasure?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like we are all pleasurable beings, you know, like pleasure is something so much bigger than just like sexuality and sensuality, but of course that's like a very important piece. So I believe that like our inherent nature is one that's pleasurable and blissful and all these things. Like a lot of yogis and a lot of people in that realm talk about how bliss is actually our natural state of equilibrium, and in a lot of ways that's really aligned with pleasure. And so it's similar to what you said. I feel like a lot of the work comes in clearing those blockages that are holding you back from that blissful, from that pleasurable nature. And specifically when it comes to things like sex and relationships, it's, yeah, once again, working through those different blockages. And so I feel like this is a perfect time, you know, if there is a blockage that is coming up for you, let's focus on that. Let's work through that. And resources like tapping can allow you to, you know, work through one blockage, and then you can come back to the practice and work through another. And I think it's really a matter of just clearing whatever has sort of like fogged up our channels or whatever has muddied our water so that we can return back to that state. It's not a state that we have to reach out to. It's a state that's within ourselves. And so practices like tapping can really help us clear whatever it is that's blocking us from returning back to that state and returning back to that state of pleasure. So yeah, it's clearing those blockages. And at the same time, you know, I use tapping to not only clear things, but to call things in and to amplify things. Like, you know, for example, that book talking about tapping into wealth, for example, it's not always about clearing. So what we're going to do in this practice is we're going to clear some of those blockages, and then we're going to use tapping to really amplify that energy as well. So I love doing both of those pieces.
Oh my God, that's so juicy. I have so many questions for you, but I want to get into the practice, so let's do it. I'm so excited. Unless there's anything else you wanted to share with people, of course, telling them the basics will be great. But yeah, if there's any other message you want to get out um, before we start the practice, let me know.
um No, I think we're good. I mean, if you have never tapped before, it's super simple. It's super easy. We're going to be tapping on 15 different points on our bodies using our fingertips and then speaking out loud. So literally all you have to do is follow along with the points that I'm tapping on and then repeat after me. My words are a guide, so you can change them in whatever way aligns most with your truth and all that good stuff.
Back up.
Michelle,
So
are
see
you going to,
more.
what?
I'm trying to back up so people can see me a little bit more.
I love it. Are you gonna speak out loud or are you gonna say these things in your head?
Um, Whatever works best for you. I'm open to either.
Um, I think it may be best if you, that's what I usually do is if you say it in your head just so people can like really tune into what's coming up.
Yeah, that sounds great. And to be honest, I have found tapping interviews. I was just at the tapping summit. It can get a little bit distracting when the other person's saying it. So that means everyone who's watching and who can tap along, they can say it out loud for themselves and it'll be more effective. So yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So let's just all take a moment to close our eyes. If you're watching this live or on the replay, just taking a moment to close your eyes, get comfortable, get situated. Using our breath to just ground into this moment. Today we're going to be focusing on tapping through any sexual blockages, any blockages that are holding you back from experiencing pleasure and bliss and all the beautiful things. So what I want you to do is focus on one thing that feels the most alive and the most present for you right now. may change when we start tapping, but just getting a sense of clarity as to what's coming up for you. And in your mind, I want you to think about how intense this feels. So 1 being doesn't feel intense at all, and 10 feeling like you can't handle it, it's overbearing. Figuring out where you fall in that 1 to 10 spectrum. So that by the end of this practice, we can see where that number lies. Last few breaths, just tuning into your intention for this session, tuning into what's coming up for you. And whenever you're ready, you can begin tapping your chest, opening your eyes, or keeping your eyes closed, and just repeating after me, remembering that my words are a guide so you can change them however you like. Even though I'm experiencing this right now, I still love and accept myself. Even though this blockage feels really alive for me right now, I still love and accept myself. My intention for this practice is blank. And just saying that intention out loud. To heal this, move past this, remove this, amplify this, whatever comes through for you. Whenever you're ready, let's dive a little bit deeper into that, tapping above the eyebrows. And I want you to say that blockage out loud. Where are you feeling blocked? In pleasure and sexuality and sensuality, what's coming up for you? Tapping the temples. Keep giving a voice to that and just tuning as deeply as you can into this blockage. Tapping below the eyes. And since so much of our pleasure comes from our bodies, I want you to tune into where this blockage stems from in your body. Where do you feel this in your body? And how does that feel in this part of your body? So saying that out loud, I feel so much tightness in my yoni, or I feel so much contraction in my heart, so much pressure in my head from this blockage. See if you can feel that a little bit more, even if it's really uncomfortable, tuning into that. Deep breath in, deep breath out. I'm ready to let this go. Even just a little bit. I'm ready to start letting this blockage go. Tapping underneath the nose. I'm ready for a new story around this. Tapping the chin. Seeing if you can put a number as to how long this story has been alive for you. How long have you had this blockage? And just saying that out loud. This has been alive for me for since childhood, since my last relationship. Tuning into that. Tapping the chest. I am ready to let go of this story that has been alive for me for however long that's been. Saying that one more time. I'm ready to let go of this story that has been alive for 5 years, 10 years, however long it's been. Tapping below the chest. There's a part of me that believes that it can't be this easy. That I can't fully let this go. There's a part of me that doesn't know how to let this go. And tuning into that part of yourself that doesn't know how to let this go, doesn't know how to welcome in a new story, and just saying that out loud, whatever comes through around that. What's going to happen if you let this blockage go around your sexuality and around your sensuality? There's so many stories, right? I'm not going to find the partner that I want. I'm not going to be loved in the way that I desire. What is that story for you? And just saying that out loud, letting that come up and out of your vocal cords so that it can be released. Tapping the sides of the ribs. I feel a lot of emotion right now, so just allowing yourself to feel whatever is coming through. Tapping the inside of the wrist. Even though this is all coming up for me, I still love and accept myself. I still love and respect myself. I trust that I can write a new story by releasing this blockage and calling in something new, something that serves me. Tapping the thumb. I'm ready for a new story, and I want you to say that out loud. If you could fully let go of this blockage or these blockages, what would be your new story? What are you calling in? What do you want to amplify? You are worthy of infinite amounts of pleasure from yourself, from your partner, from everything around you. What is that new story? Tapping the pointer finger. This feels so good. It feels so good to call this in and to know that I am worthy and deserving of this. Saying that out loud, I am worthy and deserving of this. Tapping the middle finger. Okay, let's dive a little bit deeper. I'm sure not every single part of yourself is on board to this new story, so what is coming up? Is it a new blockage or is it the same blockage? What's holding you back from receiving abundant amounts of pleasure, especially in the realms of sexuality and sensuality? Allow yourself to go there. You're safe in going there. Tapping below the ring finger. And just keep voicing through, vocalizing through what is coming up for you. Maybe it's something that dates all the way back to your childhood. Tapping the pinky finger. This is not easy. Or whatever it feels like for you. But for now, just this does not feel easy. I've been holding on to this for so long. Maybe you want to say how long. This has affected so much of my life and my relationships. What has this affected for you? Has this held you back from orgasming, from receiving the partner that you desire? What is this holding you back from? What has this held you back from? Tapping below the hand. Taking a few deep breaths in and deep breaths out. Tuning into your body, and on the exhale, I want you to say, I choose to let this go. Saying that 2 more times, and I really want you to feel this. Breathing this out on the exhale. I choose to let this go. Tapping all around the head. I am ready for a story that serves me. I'm ready to no longer be defined by these blockages. I'm ready to step into my sexual and my sensual and my pleasurable nature. And just tune into that. Tapping above the eyebrows. Feeling in your body this sexual, sensual, pleasurable, blissful nature that is alive within you. What does that feel like? Saying that out loud. Tapping the temples. What does it feel like to tune into that? Putting all those limitations aside for a moment and just tuning into the purity of this nature that is inside of you. Taking some deep breaths in and out as you tune into that space. Tapping the eyes. How can you tune into that part of you a little bit deeper? Your sexual and your sensual nature. Maybe you feel this animal totem coming through, or this goddess coming through, or this energy coming through as you tune into that. Allow yourself to feel whatever is coming through for you. Tapping below the nose. One last time, let's dive into anything else that wants to be cleared around this so that you can fully step into this nature. What's coming up, and just saying that out loud. Is there any part of you that's like, no, I can't experience that. I'm not worthy of that. I've never felt that before. Just saying that out loud. Tapping the chin and just voicing those things so that they can come up and out of your nervous system. Tapping the chest. Can you go a little bit deeper? Is there a layer beneath what you're tapping through that you can vocalize as well? Just allowing it to all come up and out. Visualizing that stream like I talked about. How can you just stream all of these things that don't serve you out of your system through your breath, through your words, through your tapping? Tapping beneath the chest. Deep breath in, deep breath out. I'm ready to let all of this go. Tapping the sides of the ribs. Everything that I've tapped through in this session, I'm ready to let go. It's time for me to step into stories that serve me. Tapping the inside of the wrist, it's time for me to step into my inherently sexual and sensual and pleasurable nature. I love and accept myself. I unconditionally love and accept myself. And I want you to tune into what you're calling in. What you're calling in today. And as you picture this, as you visualize this, just saying out loud, I am so worthy and deserving of this. I am ready for this. Tapping the thumb and just saying that out loud. What is that story that you're calling in? And as you take some deep breaths in and out, I want you to breathe that story in on the inhale. Feeling how good that feels, how pleasurable that feels, how blissful that feels. You're so worthy of that, so deserving of that. Tapping the pointer fingers. I open myself to all opportunities, all possibilities to help me amplify the story in my life. I'm ready to start acting from this place versus from what no longer serves me. Tapping the middle finger. And on these last few points, I just want you to say out loud whatever you need to hear. Whatever you need to hear to wrap up this practice. Whether that's positive affirmations, what you're calling in, just love and acceptance for yourself. Just saying those things out loud. Tapping underneath the ring finger. What does your body, what does your nervous system need to hear? And as you finish, closing your eyes and just bringing your hands to your heart center. Just allowing yourself to feel everything that you just moved through and that you just cleared. Knowing that each and every one of you just did really profound work on a spiritual and a scientific level to help amplify your pleasurable and your blissful nature. Allowing yourself to just feel all of that for these next couple of moments. Breathing into those new, clear, amplified spaces in your body. Knowing that you're worthy and deserving of everything that you desire and everything that you're calling in. Together, let's take 3 deep breaths in and out together to close out this practice. Cementing in everything that you're calling into your life. One last breath. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
That was a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I can just feel.
Yeah. Sometimes my eyes water when I'm thinking about something emotional, but not cry. Like I'm not crying specifically, but I would, my eyes were watering and I was yawning nonstop, which you taught me about last year about off gassing. And so when we move our energy, I think it's burping, farting, yawning,
Sneezing.
coughing. Like,
temperature fluctuations, like anything physical really is a sign of off-gassing.
yeah, okay. And so that's energy moving through us, yeah?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like a physical sign that energy is coming up and out of the body. So even just like your eyes watering up, that's physical signs, physical symptoms that it's coming up and out. So yeah, I we don't always off gas. So if you don't off gas, that's totally fine. But I noticed that when I yawn a lot, for example, I'm like, okay, I'm really moving through something here.
Oh my God. I was working on really what I'm doing shadow work in my sex, love, and relationship coaching certification. And it's like we did 3 weeks of trauma, and a lot of people are
Mm,
having these experiences that shit's coming up for them. And my best friend and my partner had never heard me speak so poorly about my body, and they were both worried about me last night. And I was
mm,
really like, when we really name our body negative self-talk, it's really like these strong things that I don't like to admit because I teach on embodied positivity, but it's disgust. So I was tapping on disgust, and of
mm.
course it's disgust that comes from ridiculous beauty standards and, you know, shaming of cellulite, stretch marks, hair where there shouldn't be hair, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what I was tapping on, because
Mm,
there are studies about women. If you don't love your body, it's really hard to feel pleasure and feel sexy and all that kind of stuff, especially with someone
wow.
else, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I was yawning a lot. So I really hope that I was moving through that. An invitation to anyone who was tapping with us, it looked like Sherry G. Smith, um, to note what number your whatever you were thinking about for your blockage is at now. I definitely feel more calm. I can't
Mm,
promise that I'll look in a mirror and be like, oh yes, I'm the most beautiful I've ever been, but it was um it was really nice. And to think I've been judging my body for probably around 30 years. I remember being a girl in dance
mm,
class and seeing my thighs on the chair in this blue chair at my dance class and thinking
wow.
they were too big. And I'm also 6 feet tall. So like on top of like other body issues and stuff, I
Yeah.
weigh more, I'm taller. Everyone comments on my size. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
it's very rare that I have a week that people are like, oh, you know, you're so tall and all this stuff. I guess
yeah.
less so with COVID. We're all on Zoom, but yeah. So
Mm,
really grateful to be naming something that sounds so awful, but really, I think our stuff bubbles up, and when we can name it,
exactly.
really, disgust is, you know, it is there for a reason. All of our emotions, shame, guilt, I was just reflecting on this. I'm like, oh, right. Shame and guilt are there because we want to make sure we're staying in community with other humans and making sure we act in a way that is integrity with ourselves, but also the community
Mm,
standards so that we have humans to bond with. And also
yeah.
back in the day, we would be kicked out of communities, which meant death. Right, so they're here for a reason. And disgust is a way of our body telling us what works for us or not. Right,
Very true.
so yeah, just leaning into these like shadowy, uncomfortable feelings, I think is a main, huge, important step to
Yeah.
getting past them. And so as much as I was like, oh my God, I want to write a copy post about this. I'm like, you know, I do struggle with body positivity, you know, when we often teach what we need to learn, right? So yeah.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah, no, exactly. And thank you so much for sharing that because it's like so hard in some ways to admit that, especially these like much more shadowy parts of ourselves. But like you said, in some of our deepest shadows is some of the deepest medicine. And what was I going to say that's coming through around this? Oh, yeah. So, something that's helpful to keep in mind for what you shared, and just for anyone that tapped through something intense today, when we're going through the healing process, oftentimes we have to match the energy of what we're healing. So if something like doesn't really bother us that much, you may be able to just heal it right away in one tapping session. But if something has been coming up for you for so many years and is so deeply entrenched in your being and in your body, then it may take a little bit more work. But the good news is that when we're able to really match the energy of what we're healing, we're able to really move through that. And so you're well on the way to, maybe you don't think that you're beautiful in every single moment. Hopefully you'll absolutely get there, but it's, continually matching that energy over time so that we can one day fully move through that. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I really believe in authenticity and vulnerability, and the more I share, people share so many vulnerable things, especially around sex. Sex is so personal, sexual
Mm,
empowerment, body image, all this stuff. So I always try
yeah.
and lead by example. I think I'm gonna write on this. Honestly, it's I think it's gonna shock people, and also just be really real, and connecting with people that are also feeling the same thing. So yeah, I know that we're going to get the 2-minute warning soon, and sometimes it cuts off before the 2-minute warning's up. I would love, love, love for us to hear all about your offers, what's going on for you right now, where we can find you. You are welcome to promote anything. And
Oh,
yes, I hope anyone who's following me on my following this interview with my audience, not mine, but my community, and you want to come follow Tatiana, please do. She's obviously amazing medicine woman. Giving us
mm,
medicine through embodied practice today was just so special. So yes,
thank
anything you'd like to
you.
share at all, please feel welcome.
Oh, yeah. Well, the best place to find me is through the Instagram, through my Instagram.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But my main offerings right now are my one-on-one sessions. So I do 3 different kinds of one-on-one sessions because, yeah, this is the medicine that I feel like I'm able to deliver the most through. So basically, I do healing, coaching, and photography. So somatic healing, using somatic practices like what we did today, coaching, but really using it in a much like in a very spiritual context. I do a lot of channeling in my sessions. The camera as a way to see us and see us in all our glory. I really believe that one of the greatest ways to heal is through being seen. And so I love using the camera in that way. So those are the main 3 ways that I'm serving right now. And yeah, it feels so good to be able to share and to serve in these ways that have helped me so much throughout my journey as well. So yeah.
I love that. I'm not super into photography, but my parents actually did meet at the Toronto Camera Club, and that's how they got together. And so my dad still judges and does professional, semi-professional wildlife photography. So I grew up.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's always been
amazing.
a big part of my life. It was always a tool to get me and my little sister, to stop fighting. We'd be like fighting, then they're like, "Okay, camera time," and we're like, yeah, we could always pose on command. So it's funny. I have the same pose in a lot of pictures, but it works. It's a good one. And
That's
actually,
so funny.
last night I did. So one of the embodied sexual practices I do in my sex goddess coaching circle, which doors open tomorrow, by the way, if you want to get up level your sexual empowerment, your inner radiant goddess selves, and live a life of wealth, pleasure, and prosperity, starts tomorrow. But a practice we did last night, and it's the 3rd time I've run it, is a sexy selfie boudoir photo shoot. So learning how to take your own photos in a beautiful way
Mm,
in community. It's like a girls' night or a friend's night when you're getting ready and you're trying on different outfits and showing it off. And one woman was almost due in her like she's due with a baby in like a week, and the
oh,
other one was not feeling as sexy on her period, and by the end
mm,
they were like, oh my god, that was an amazing practice. And it's just so fun, I find, for women to just celebrate in community each other's bodies. It was such an uplifting practice.
mm,
Yeah, even last term, so I've run goddess school twice now, and last term we one of them loved it so much we did it for International Day of Self-Love, just as a one-off workshop. She's like, can we do this again like every month? I'm like, okay, let's run it around Valentine's Day. So, and February
it's
13th is International Day of Self-Love. So another embodied practice that you guys can try at home. Just take pictures for yourself, single or not. Like, just do it for yourself, and it's a really great
mm,
way to feel sexy. And try not to judge your
thank
photos.
you.
That was like the big thing. And look at the feeling that you felt, that sexual
Mm,
energy, that goddess energy that we cultivate in every session that we have. We dance and meditate every single circle that I run,
mm,
and so yeah, every single week. And so yeah, I was trying to love myself, but then sometimes we can get into our socialization that we've been socialized for, of what is beautiful or not.
that's
So
the
anyways,
medicine.
love
That's the
that photography
medicine.
work. That's really a beautiful way to help people feel seen. One of my first coaches was a
Mm,
photographer, actually.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I worked in the fashion and beauty world for over 2 years, like doing shoots all over the world, working with brands and models and, crazy stuff. So I was so deep in that world, and I saw that every time I worked with someone, their energy would change so much in front of the camera. And between that and other very crazy things, it made me realize that there's actually so much medicine there. And like you said, not only in being in front of the camera, but then when you see the photos, like it's like kind of a double whammy, and so much that we can learn from and heal and all of these things through that kind of work. So I love that you do that as well, because the work in front of the camera is very real.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I heard once I threw a photography party for this street photographer that I knew up north. Anyways, there was a quote, and it said, when there's color photos, when you see a color photo, you see the fashion, but when you see a person or an object in black and white, you see the soul. And that was just like so cool. I love that about
Wow.
black and white photography. It's true.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that we're not kicked off yet. Any
I know.
last words for our audience that you didn't get to say earlier? Anything you'd like to leave our audience with today?
No, I feel like we covered so much. Yeah, if you want to connect, Instagram is the best way to do that. But otherwise, just know that tapping is such a simple and easy but powerful resource that you can use. And, at the end of the day, it's all about finding these different resources that can really help us and serve us on our journey, especially, like you said, through some of those very icky and very shadowy parts of ourselves. There's nothing that isn't allowed to come up and out, and tapping is a great way to do exactly that. So yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to come on your show and sharing in this space. It's been really beautiful. Such a great way to start the day.
I love that. Thank you so much. I just messaged Tatiana, just so you guys know, a couple months ago, just saying, like, cheering her on, be like, I love your work. I think you were mentioning an offer or something like that. I was just like, that's not for me tonight or whatever, but I'd really love to connect with you. I've just been cheering you on for the last year and love your work. Your website's phenomenal. Check out her offers. They're so beautifully written. I want to model my paragraphs the same way. They're really beautiful, honestly, so good. Because I think you're talking about the transformation you're going to bring people through. It was really well written. It was really beautiful. Which is a beautiful compliment. Anyone wants to hear that about their website. Like, oh, you love my website? Yes. Because we all struggle with it, right?
Thank you. I've spent so much time writing those paragraphs. It's crazy. Beautiful. So thank you for seeing
really
that.
Oh my God. I was like, go back to this and state to keep obviously not copy it, but keep the structure. It's very beautifully written.
Thank you so much.
Oh, just gorgeous. Really. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. This is available, will be available on my IGTV. We just have to save it, and then I'll add the description back in there, and then you can share it with whoever you want. Again, I've been running the Instagram Pleasure and Prosperity Show for about a year, and so I have dozens of interviews on sensuality, nature, naked yoga, intention setting, pussy intuition, being queer and sober. God, there's been so many sexual liberation journeys, sexual shame. I've interviewed female empowerment, spirituality, tarot reading, all this kind of stuff. So that's all on my IGTV tab, and soon to be on my YouTube channel as well. So I'm really excited about that. So thank you so much for everyone for watching. Thank you so much, Tatiana. This is really beautiful. Your energy is so grounding and calming, and it was just wonderful to spend time with you today.
You too. I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, everyone, remember, I believe in you. I believe in me. I love you. I love me. Mwah.
I love it. Bye.
Bye.